Humiliation, redemption, transformation. Those 3 words sum up the night. I walked into a glittering Christmas party, only to be told to leave. Amanda's icy voice sliced through the elegance of her family's Greenwich, Connecticut mansion, her designer gown sparkling as she sneered at my grease-stained dress and dirty hands. I'd arrived 30 minutes late, soaked from a December storm, after stopping to help a stranger with a broken-down car. I expected warmth from my sons-in-laws, but found contempt instead. If you're watching, hit subscribe and tell me where you're from. Let me rewind and share how Margaret Sullivan went from being humiliated at the fanciest party I'd ever attended to discovering that a roadside act of kindness could change everything. 3 months earlier, I was scraping by in my modest New Haven apartment, stretching a meager pension since my husband, Frank, passed 5 years ago. Then, my son, David, called with surprising news. Mom, Amanda's family wants to meet you at their Christmas party, he said, his voice tinged with caution. I should have been elated. Amanda, David's wife of 3 years, had barely acknowledged me. The Whitmans were Connecticut royalty, old money, old traditions, and old prejudices against people like me. Amanda's grandmother, Eleanor, had built a business empire, and their gatherings felt like exclusive board meetings, where I was woefully under. That's great, honey, I replied, though David's pause made me wary. Just dress nicely. They're big on appearances. I knew exactly what he meant. Amanda was always flawless, while I shopped at thrift stores and cut my own hair. But this was my chance to fit into David's new world. To prove I wasn't the embarrassment they assumed, I said yes, unaware that a roadside encounter would reveal the Whitmans' true feelings about me from the start. My place in the Whitman family was shaky. David met Amanda during his Yale residency, and her first visit to my apartment was a masterclass in polite disdain. So cozy, she'd said, her tone implying it was a flaw. I tried to win her over with home-cooked meals and genuine interest, but she'd pegged me as David's poor mother. Their wedding at the Whitman estate was a lavish affair, costing more than I'd earned in years. In my navy dress from Frank's funeral, I felt like a sparrow among swans. Amanda's mother, Patricia, introduced me as David's mother from New Haven, never by name, as if I were a footnote. But Eleanor Whitman intrigued me, elegant and she seemed to notice everything, despite Amanda's claim that she was detached. Grandmother lets Dad handle the business, Amanda said at the wedding. That word "let" stuck with me. Family dynamics among the wealthy were clearly complex. After the wedding, David and Amanda moved closer to her family, and our visits grew rare, our conversations strained. At their dinners, I was sidelined, listening to talk of business deals and exotic vacations I couldn't join. David suggested I engage with Amanda's charity work, but her subtle efforts to keep me distant always won out. So, David's call about the Christmas party felt like a breakthrough. Maybe Amanda was softening. Maybe Eleanor wanted me included. In hindsight, I should have seen it as a trap. I prepared for the party like it was a high-stakes audition. I spent days hunting for an affordable yet elegant dress, landing on a burgundy one with subtle beading for $1.65 at Nordstrom Rack. It wasn't designer, but it looked the part. I bought pinching shoes and a matching purse, determined to blend in. David called with advice. Stick to safe topics. Mom, nothing polarizing. I heard Amanda in the background, stressing about her extended family and business associates attending. The message was clear. Don't mess this up. I rehearsed responses in my mirror, practicing how to sidestep questions about my modest life. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd faced her own struggles as an immigrant, encouraged me. Be yourself, Margaret. If they can't see your value, that's their loss. But being myself hadn't worked for 3 years. Maybe it was time to become their version of acceptable. The morning of the party, a brutal ice storm hit. My hair appointment was canceled, and the tailor's shop was delayed by flooding. By noon, I was in my bathrobe, watching freezing rain glaze the world. Wondering if the party would go on, David called, "Mom, the roads are bad. You sure you're coming?" Amanda's voice cut in. "The party's happening. Everyone's here, everyone but me. I'll be there, I promised." I did my own hair and makeup, hands shaking as I applied eyeliner. The burgundy dress made me feel briefly elegant, until I saw my practical winter coat. I left at 1:30, crawling through icy traffic. On the winding road to the Whitman estate, I spotted her, an older woman beside a stalled luxury sedan, ice in her silver hair, no hat, despite her pricey coat. I could have driven by. I was already late, and stopping would ruin my look. But leaving her in a storm felt wrong. I pulled over. "Need help?" I called. She turned, her blue eyes sharp and assessing. "My car won't start," she said calmly. Something about her quiet strength reminded me of my mother. I got out, rain soaking my coat and wilting my hair. "Let me check," I said, inspecting her engine. Frank had taught me basic car fixes. Battery terminals are corroded. "Got any cola?" She stared, baffled. "Coca-Cola cleans corrosion," I explained. She produced a Coke from a fancy handbag, and I poured it over the terminals, scraping with my key. "You're ruining your dress," she said. "Some things matter more," I replied. As we waited, she asked where I was going. "Christmas party," I said. "My son's in." "Very formal. And you stopped for a stranger." I shrugged. "Couldn't leave you out here." Her gaze softened. The car started, and she handed me a card, "Eleanor Whitman." My heart stopped. "You're Amanda's grandmother," I whispered. She smiled. "And you're Margaret Sullivan, David's mother. I've wanted to meet you." My mind spun. This was the woman Amanda said stayed out of things. "Shall we go to the party together?" she asked, as if we hadn't just met in a storm. Following Eleanor's car to the estate, I realized I was arriving a mess, wet, dirty, utterly myself. The mansion glowed with Christmas lights, elegant figures gliding inside. A valet took my battered sedan with confusion, then greeted Eleanor with surprise. "Your driver canceled due to the weather." "I drove myself," she said. Inside, my reflection showed smeared makeup and grease stains. Patricia descended the staircase, her smile fading. "Margaret, how unexpected." "Margaret fixed my car," Eleanor said smoothly. Amanda appeared, her gown worth more than my rent. "What happened to you?" she gasped, annoyed. David rushed over. "Mom, are you okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just helped someone." Amanda's whisper carried. She could have called AAA. The parlor went silent, guests staring at the disheveled intruder. Amanda leaned to David. "This is embarrassing." "She should go change," Richard added. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable leaving too. Freshen up." I was about to flee when Eleanor's voice cut in. "Actually, Margaret's story deserves to be heard." She addressed the room. "Margaret sacrificed her appearance to help me in a storm. That's character worth celebrating." Silence. "How many of you would have stopped?" she asked, her eyes piercing. Amanda looked sour. Richard tried to interrupt, but Eleanor silenced him. "Tell them what you did, Margaret." I swallowed. "I used Coca-Cola to clean her battery corrosion. A trick Frank taught me." Murmurs followed, even a laugh. "Practical wisdom," Eleanor said, standing beside me. "The kind that built this family's legacy, getting hands dirty to solve problems." Amanda tried to deflect, but Eleanor cut her off. "Margaret looks like someone who values people over appearances. That's true beauty." My chest warmed. Someone was defending me. "She stays," Eleanor declared. The crowd's dismissive glances turned curious. Eleanor had shifted the narrative. Over dinner, Eleanor drew me into conversations about my life, making my experiences feel valued. But Amanda and Richard grew tense with each praise. In the library afterward, surrounded by books and portraits, Eleanor dropped a bombshell. She'd founded Whitman Industries in 1969, not her husband. I was 23, a young mother with a $5,000 loan. She said, pointing to a portrait, "I built this empire from nothing." The room froze. Amanda paled. Richard protested. Eleanor continued, "Margaret reminded me today of who I was, someone who solves problems, who puts people first." Then she turned to me. "I'm offering you a consulting role, head of community engagement. $75,000 for 6 months. With a potential executive position." Shock rippled through the room. "I'm not qualified," I stammered. "You're qualified in what matters, heart and problems," Eleanor insisted. Against all reason, I accepted. This was my chance to be valued, to make a difference. As I stood in that library, still in my stained dress, I realized I'd found not just acceptance, but purpose. Eleanor saw the strength I'd nearly forgotten. I'd arrived an outsider, but left a partner in rebuilding something meaningful. Some parties change your outfit. This one changed my future. Thanks for watching. Share your story below. Your voice counts.